I hope by the end of our half hour or so together to really leave you with two things. One is a really strong sense of how Allrecipes has changed Meredith. We've owned the brand and the asset for about 4 years. And then also dig into how Allrecipes itself has continued to change during Meredith's ownership and maybe give you a sense of where the brand is headed in the near future. So by way of background, if those of you are not as familiar with Meredith, we operate two segments. First, and the bigger of the revenue piece, is what we call a national media business, whose anchor brands include Better Homes and Gardens. Allrecipes is part of this business, also Shape, Parents, Martha Stewart more recently, and then a local media business that reaches about 11% of the United States households. The national media business reaches about 100 million women in the United States each and every month. So the national media business at Meredith is the largest in the U.S. that's focused solely on women, and we lead the market in several categories, including parenthood, anchored by Parents brand, home through Better Homes and Gardens and Family Circle and Martha Stewart, as I mentioned, and then in the food category, anchored really by Allrecipes, but also supported by a number of other brands, including Eating Well. 2016 marks the 21st year for Meredith's digital activities. We started in 1995. But our digital focus really sharpened starting in 2008 to 2012. We began launching tablet products, mobile apps at that time, mobile sites, and we also rolled all of the websites that were in the national media together into what we call the Meredith Women's Network. But focusing a little bit more on 2012 itself, that's also the year that Meredith acquired Allrecipes. Since that time, we've added the digital sites from Martha Stewart in addition to the print sites and the Shape brand, and also entered the wedding category by acquiring a digital business called mywedding.com. And most recently, we added a pre-roll video and native advertising technology company called Selectable Media. But I want to focus today on 2012 and really set the stage for what Allrecipes brought to Meredith. So back in 2012, digital had already surpassed cookbooks and magazines as the top platform that consumers went to for food inspiration and to learn and find what they wanted to cook for their next meal. And it turns out that this was a really big problem for Meredith. Meredith was the largest cookbook publisher in the United States. The Better Homes and Gardens Red Plaid Cookbook is the largest selling cookbook in the world. And through Better Homes and Gardens, we had the leading magazine position in food, but we were nowhere near the top 10 and even the top 20 when it came to digital sites for food. As you can see on this slide, we also did not crack the top 10 in the important women's lifestyle category. So in order to remain relevant, we felt like we had a very strong need to acquire a stronger position, both in food and in the women's lifestyle category. Unfortunately, the Allrecipes brand came up for sale, and what was a surprise to me, frankly, you heard I also manage Meredith's investor relations function. Meredith is a publicly traded company with an awful lot of discipline, and I'm surprised that our bid won the auction for Allrecipes, but I'm thankful that it did. So the combination of Allrecipes into Meredith's existing digital business was really transformational for us. It immediately vaulted us to number one in the digital food category, and it also improved our position dramatically in the women's lifestyle category. And what that meant from a company standpoint is suddenly we were qualifying for and winning RFPs that previously we didn't have any access to. So from an audience standpoint, you can see between 2012 and 2013, or really 2011, the year before we owned Allrecipes, the impact that Allrecipes has had on our audience. So in blue at bottom is our magazine-based audience, and in the orange is our digital audience, which is broken by desktop internet and tablets and mobile. There are a couple of conclusions that Meredith draws when we look at this slide. First and foremost, the digital component is, no question, very, very important. And it's leading all of the growth, most of the growth that we have. But the second conclusion that we would draw from this slide is that the print audience is also important. And I'm going to speak to this in a few moments, but we believe that when we look at this slide, we believe this is the foundation for why consumers want a multi-platform experience and why we can maximize the audience by giving them a multi-platform experience. So this slide, and again, because of my investor relations experience, I tend to talk a lot about revenue and the money at Meredith. But this slide, I think, most clearly captures the end result importance of having Allrecipes in the Meredith portfolio. So here we've got a snapshot of 2011 advertising revenues in Meredith's National Media Group. You can see digital in green at the top and print in blue at the bottom. That's the year before we owned Allrecipes. And then flash forward to 2016. This is our fiscal year, so it'll end on June 30. And we've almost got the year wrapped up. $523 million is what Wall Street expects Meredith to generate in advertising sales this year, with about 25% or so of that coming from digital. So we are now seeing at Meredith growth in digital advertising revenues overcoming the decline in print and leading to overall advertising revenues for the company. So we're at the inflection point now, and Allrecipes represents about half of the digital advertising revenues for Meredith. So Allrecipes, it doubled Meredith's digital traffic. It doubled our digital advertising revenue. And as I just mentioned, it is contributing to advertising revenue growth for the company. So big changes for Meredith as a result of having it with us. Now I want to change and talk about Allrecipes itself. So when we bought the brand, it was the largest digital food brand in the world, thriving but only on one platform, on desktop internet. And the operations were based in Seattle. They continue to be based in Seattle, which makes total sense for the tech platform, alongside really great talent pool from Microsoft and Amazon and the other technology companies based in Seattle. But it also had its advertising operations based in Seattle, which doesn't make a lot of sense because most of the advertising decisions in the US are made in New York and Los Angeles and Chicago. 25% of its user base, even in 2012, was coming from mobile phones to the site, and it did not have a mobile optimized site. So flash forward to today, and the brand is thriving across platforms. It's still the largest digital brand in the world. Its Dinner Spinner app is the most downloaded food app. It has thousands of video assets that are averaging about 6 million views a month. We've got a very large group of active influencers and bloggers that we call the Allrecipes All-Stars. We've launched a major print magazine. It's at 1,300,000 circulation 6 times a year today. And then finally, Meredith added a mobile site, and today the mobile site is generating about 50% of Allrecipes' total traffic. So when we step back and we look at where Allrecipes is headed, what it's focused on, first and foremost, continuing to strengthen its competitive position in the constantly evolving media marketplace. We're taking steps to improve the core functionality for the site, and we're also continuing to work to expand the brand outside the United States. So at Meredith, we tend to look at media platforms as being very distinctive from each other. And I showed you the audience composition chart earlier, we look at the print platform as being very good at inspiring with its lush photography, very lean back experience. It's very good at inspiring people to try something. And we look at digital as a platform that's very good at helping you get done something that you've already decided to do. I joke sometimes that search in internet terms is a little bit of a misnomer to me because you already know what you're looking for. You're just maybe looking for a better deal on a used car, or you're looking for a particular cooking technique like how to saute. One thing that's important about this philosophy at Meredith and how we use this is it means we don't replicate the same content across platforms, which is also, I think, a key reason why we're seeing audience growth across the print and the digital platforms. But mobile, no doubt, like we're hearing today and yesterday here at this conference, like we all know, no doubt mobile is important. For the same reason it's important to all of your businesses. And in the US, the next up-and-coming generation, the millennials, mobile's more important than ever. 60% of internet searches by millennials are happening via their phone. And when you look at food-specific searches by millennials, the number's much higher than that. About 85% of millennials' visits to Allrecipes are coming from their mobile phone. So recognizing that, Meredith has done two things. About 6 months ago, we launched a new version of the site that we cleverly call .next, much more social in functionality. I'll show you a video about it in a moment. But the second thing is that we acquired a business called Couponics that is giving us all kinds of in-store shopper marketing related data that we're feeding through mobile sites. So on this slide, you can see Allrecipes can be used as your shopping list. We know about 25% of the people who are on the site today are actually at the grocery store looking at their phone as they're making their food purchase decisions. So using it as a shopping tool. We're using it through Couponics to deliver messaging about brands that are on sale. So if you're in the United States, the phone will know that you're in Detroit or Seattle. It'll tell you which grocery items on your list are for sale at whichever location you might choose to go to. And then through beacons, we're pushing alerts to you when you're close to that store or when you're in the store, maybe a different part of the store you'd want to go to find the items that you're looking for. So what this means when we step back and look at the classic marketing funnel, the purchasing funnel, is Meredith has, for 115 years of our history, been almost entirely focused at the inspirational piece of the funnel. And engaging Allrecipes and now mobile phones, in-store shopper marketing tools, we're able to move entirely through the shopping funnel, which is allowing us to prove out to our advertising clients a true ROI on their investment. And we think makes advertising across Meredith's media a really competitive solution as they're thinking about how to maximize their purchase dollars or their advertising dollars. Allrecipes today is a localized experience in 23 countries and 12 languages. It's the #1 site in English-speaking Canada and French-speaking Canada as well. And it's a top site here in the UK and also a top 3 site in Mexico and the Netherlands and in Australia. We're very open to all kinds of partnerships, and I really think of media companies as requiring 3 key components to work. So first, there's the editorial. Second, there's the platform that the content gets delivered on. And then third is finding the money. With Allrecipes, because it's user-generated, the user community is submitting their recipes to the site, and they're doing it in local tastes, local ingredients, using local measurement methods. So the Allrecipes tool has the editorial, the content side figured out. The platform is very flexible across languages, allows for serving of local advertising. That IT platform is managed in Seattle, so we've largely got that figured out as well. But the advertising and the monetization piece is still very much a local function, and we're actively looking for partners that can help us with that. So with that, I'm happy to take your questions, and again, really appreciate the opportunity to be here today.
Thank you very much. Right. Making me feel hungry already. It's not so good having this sort of thing before lunch, is it?
Perfect before lunch, right?
So just to kick off, first question, what's the next international market?
Wow, that's a great question. So the ideal next international market, I don't think there's an ideal market for us. I think what would be very interesting is to further expand the scope of the platform, maybe by including some languages and characters that aren't currently there. And we've had some great conversations along those lines recently. I don't know that there's an ideal next market for us.
No. Okay, so basically the app is free. All the content is freely available. There's no subscription model at all. And so it's all ad funded or sponsor funded.
There's very small Allrecipes Pro version.
Okay.
But very, very small. You get some additional functionality.
Yes.
I wouldn't pretend to say that it's a success,
So
but
it's a very small percentage. It's a kind of a premium users. But I guess I'm interested in the different ways in which advertisers and sponsors can participate. What's the biggest source of revenue?
So display advertising still is king.
Yeah.
Programmatic advertising is rising. But via the launch of .next, so we talk a lot about the user experience and how it's putting users at the center of their social digital lives. It is also treating or giving the opportunity to brands to behave socially as well. So you can have a cook's page if you're an individual using the site. You can have a brand page if you are a brand manager at Kraft or at Unilever or whomever the advertiser would
And then
be.
they contribute recipes.
They contribute recipes, they contribute time and attention to managing that site.
Yes. I was quite interested in the group of all-stars, the sort of, I guess, influencers or ambassadors. Yeah, how does that work, and what does it do for the rest of the business?
So they're folks like bloggers everywhere. They're very passionate, in this case about food and about Allrecipes as the platform. So we're giving them a little bit of special insight into what's coming down the path in return for their active promotion of the brand.
Yes. So they get
It's not a
trials
commercial
or freebies.
relationship as far as I understand, but they're helpful in driving their followers to the site.
Yeah, so they just manage to influence their own particular kind of networks. Another question really about the international dimension is how you manage translation, because I guess people will post recipes in their own home language.
They
do you translate, or do you just stay in the home language?
So the recipes come in local language from the user community. So users in France are posting in French, etc. The editorial team that's based in Seattle, I think it's just kind of fortunate that Seattle is the cosmopolitan city that it is, where you've got a lot of technology talent and a lot of trailing spouses and significant others who are journalists who are also living in that city. So we have editors who are native to the country where they are editing. And in some markets, we do have some partners in place who are helping us in market maybe massage the content a little bit to make it even more relevant.
Yes, because there was a question there about kind of partners, and I guess that's talking about the local partners.
I love this app, by the way. This is really cool.
It is good, isn't it? Yeah.
Eliminates the shyness. I think there's a lot more interaction.
What's interesting is there's like 90% of the questions are anonymous. So there you go. But so looking at the partners, the people that you work with in individual local markets, what's the ideal profile?
I think the ideal profile is a company that has relationships with the food advertising community and the marketing community, or the ability to get them. And I think also has the ability to operate at a national scale.
Yes.
And in a perfect world, it would be a company that has other related media that we could co-market one another's
like
properties.
News media or sort of, more lifestyle media.
It's easy enough, I think, to find an advertising representative for you.
Yeah.
But we want to take it much a step deeper to find strategic partners who are really capable of using their media to grow the user base for Allrecipes and use Allrecipes to help move the needle on their own audience size.
Yes, yes. So a question here about the content and the fact that it's all user-generated. And I guess there's sort of two sides to this. One is like how you encourage that. And the other one is whether there's a small group of people that create a lot of content or whether it's more widespread.
Sure, you're going to have that 80-20 rule where 80% of the content is contributed by a smaller number of folks who are really into it. But we don't do a lot of work, as far as I understand, to encourage people to participate. It's kind of the beauty of the internet, and it triggers something in our humanity that we just want to participate.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so there's a kind of question which is looking at how the print magazine is fueling perhaps the digital, and how the different elements work together.
So this is a story that I didn't focus on today, but the magazine was launched about 18 months ago. It was launched at 500,000 copy rate base in the United States, which I know outside of the US sounds like a really big number, but for us it's kind of the bare minimum to really focus on a new launch. And we did it in a way, Meredith is obviously historically a magazine publisher, and so we have this new asset, the shiny digital toy that we're curious can be a real brand that can have some horsepower across platforms. So we had Better Homes and Gardens branded food magazine that was only sold at newsstand 4 times a year. And we thought we would have a little test. And so for one of those issues, we pulled the Better Homes logo off and we put the Allrecipes logo on. We didn't change anything else about the magazine.
So the content was identical.
Content was identical, and it sold 4 times more than the Better Homes logo. So we knew we had something at that point. And the next innovation was, for the folks focused on the financial side here, we printed 10 million copies of this magazine, thinking that we're going to get a better response rate if we actually deliver a complete magazine to people, rather than just a flimsy little blow-in card or some piece of direct mail that people can't conceptualize. So we printed 10 million copies. We polybagged it because Meredith's serving about 30 million magazines a month. So we took a third of the file that we knew were focused on food.
The existing subscribers.
Existing subscribers.
Yes.
We gave them a copy of Allrecipes, and it counted, by accounting standards, it counted as an issue of the magazine. So we could book the revenue for the 10 million copies, so the test paid for itself. And I think we had orders for about 400,000 copies within the first 2 months or so.
Okay, so kind of linked to that, I guess, is the question about are there other markets that Meredith is operating in where you have digital properties where you might go from digital to print?
Yes, we do it with another brand, the wedding website that I mentioned called My Wedding, that's similar to Allrecipes in a way. So the My Wedding business is very hyper-localized. It's by city. So if you're getting married, you want to plan your event in Miami or here in London. And increasingly with how often people move, they may not even live in the city where they're going to get married because maybe they want to get married where they're from and they live someplace different. So that site has tools, and I'm thinking here, frankly, it could work anywhere in the world. We took that site and we created a wedding magazine. It's a really nice complement to the Martha Stewart Weddings product, which is a fairly new brand to Meredith. So that's another example of it.
Yes, yeah, brilliant. And
different too. The websites are very focused on utility. The magazines are focused on inspiration. So Allrecipes magazine is going to include data that is informed by the user community. We know when chicken's trending. We know when lasagna's trending.
That's interesting,
But we make it about technique and about the kind of more inspirational side of food.
Yeah, that's interesting because that kind of picks up another thread, which is that the data that you get from the digital site, that, from Allrecipes, will inform the editorial content.
It informs the editorial content, and it also is a great way to get your foot in the door to the advertising client. Oftentimes, you know better than they do what people are interested in cooking and buying.
Yes, how their product is used. Yeah, no, very interesting. Okay, final question is what kind of marketing you do when you enter a new market? And I guess that's talking about a new international market.
Yeah, so if we were standing up a site for the first time, we would need some amount of recipe content, probably 1,000 or so, that we could seed the site with, so when the user comes, it feels substantial. And then we would also look for the classic marketing tools. The beauty of Allrecipes so far is that we've not spent on digital marketing for the site. So the engineers in Seattle are watching trends and search trends, and as different food types are trending, they're publishing content against that. So natural search has been the way that we've traditionally led a launch.
Yes. Okay, brilliant. Well, I think we're out of time, so thank you very much. That was really fascinating. Thank